My name's Ellie. Welcome to my channel. We're playing with makeup today. I have some pretty new things. This one I have to be careful with. We will see when we get to it, but I have new makeup and they're all pretty things. I also have a lipstick. So, we're going to start with the NARS Afterglow palette. I'm not going to try to say any of the names because I'm bad at guessing the order based on how things are labeled on the back of packaging. Palettes. Take the little thing off. I've swatched a couple of them. I have not put them on my face yet. Ooh. We're going to start weird. I'm going to try and see if I can use this to do my face. And I want to put this shimmery one on my brow bone because I do that anyway. And I was noticing that the one I put on today was not as iridescent and sparkly as the one I was panning before. So we're just going to start there. I have a bunch of other stuff on my face. I've mainly used NARS shadows that are baked, so this is going to be new, but I kind of want to stick with the warm, kind of creamsicle shade and the brown, and maybe deepen it up with that, and then I'm hoping to do either these two or these two, and we'll see what happens as shit gets on my face. So let's start with the pretty orange shade. Because this is a very pretty palette, but it's also kind of boring. I went back and forth on it, and then I saw Kitschnitch do a review, and it was so pretty, and I wanted it. But it's really hard to justify neutral palettes to myself, and quarantine happened. There were several times that I was up at an odd hour of night, nobody was around to tell me not to, and I needed something fun, something happy, because I was just sitting at home watching a shit ton of TV and trying not to have anxiety. And normally one of the best fixes for my anxiety is seeing my friends or seeing my boyfriend, neither of which I was allowed to do because we were on lockdown. It's really soft, so I'm going to start putting on the brown. I think I probably should have put them in a different order. I think the brown as the main color. Oh, that's nice. You can't see because the lighting is bad, but I'm going to go back in and do what I wanted to do, which was put the brown in the deeper part of the crease and blend out the edges with the orange. I think would have been a smarter plan. I didn't have a plan. I ordered this. I ordered a blush and a lipstick, and none of them are really stand on their own. I want to do a full review long thing about this product. But they're also not things that I want to just bring in and not mention the fact that I'm using a new item that you haven't seen before. After having tried to make a whole spiel out of using my collection more. So I thought we'd do a new thing. I am back at work, so I have a bit of a distraction for my anxiety. We're still in general trying to social distance a lot of places. I'm going to take a little bit of this slightly deeper brown and we're going to pop that kind of in the outer half a lot of stuff is not open. I'm still quite anxious about a lot of things. Like, I'm very nervous about the malls opening back up so quickly. I'm not sure we're at that stage yet, but I'm not in charge of it. So I'm just going to not do that for a while. I'm going to try to stay home and just go to work, come home kind of stuff, and hopefully stay safe. It's not a fun thing to do, but back at work we all have moved our desks, or we're all situated 6 feet apart. Not all of our desks are full, so some of us moved to other desks to get 6 feet of distance between our working spaces. We're doing temperature checks at the beginning before you clock in. We're doing little questionnaires about exposure before you clock in. If you have temp over a certain thing, or if you hit too many of the answers wrong, you get sent home. I'm going to start with this one in the outer corner, which I think is smart. It definitely does not cover asymptomatic people or people who just want to come to work. As much as I missed having something to do and being productive, oh lovely. Oh, that's really pretty. It's got a strong orange reflect that I saw in the pan. I wasn't sure was going to translate properly. It is translating quite nicely. There are people who would potentially lie about those things in order to come to work, and the testing procedures do not cover asymptomatic people. If you don't have a fever, if you don't have any of the things, you could be exposing your coworkers, and it's all kind of a trusting them thing, which is interesting. You would think that people in my line of work in healthcare would have a good respect for these protocols, but anybody who has worked with anyone knows that sometimes there's somebody who just doesn't believe it. There's plenty of healthcare professionals who just, for whatever reason, don't follow guidelines. Sometimes it's because the guidelines legitimately are a little more constrictive than they need to be, and that person just doesn't get it, doesn't get what role it's filling. There's all sorts of stupid, or seemingly stupid, and overly whatever rules. There's rules you're like, really? We have to make a rule about that? It's because somebody didn't and something bad happened. Anytime there's really, I have to wear... There was a rule about wearing a vest. You had to wear this bright colored, reflective vest when going out onto the lot at a at a gas station I worked to. Anytime you went outside, stepped outside of the front doors, you were supposed to have that vest on. I'm like, that seems unnecessary. We're wearing, bright red polos. There's lights everywhere. It just seemed ridiculous. You'd have to be pretty stupid to not see somebody. And it is because somebody didn't see an employee and hit them and dragged them under their car for 100 feet. There's reasons. Not that a vest would have helped that person, but there's always a story behind it. I feel like this is a good match, but there's something about the texture of that one that I want it on my face. It's very flaky. Hopefully it sticks. Oh, yeah. The more you play with eyeshadows, the more the weird textured ones just intrigue you. So, part of me going back to work is that I will be using more of my Project Pan shadows throughout the week and then using other things on the weekend, which is leading into part of the justification that I gave myself when acquiring this palette. I'm going to start panning all sorts of work-appropriate shit. So I have my Franken shadows. They are my first attempt. I have pressed 2 shadows now into my Tartlet, because that is also on the chopping block. And I want to just go through these palettes that I have that are, you know, like this. This would be great. This is a great work palette. I could wear these shades, you know, 100 different ways and make really, really pretty looks, and at no point worry about whether or not what I'm wearing is too bright for the office. Even that, I don't think that's going to read the same on the eyes, so I don't think I need to worry about whether or not it's going to be kapow enough. I'm going to take some of this shade for the inner corner. We will see. See, a lot of these are new textures for me, so I don't know how they adhere. I'm being optimistic. And I'm very much prepared to move stuff around and try other brushes if things don't adhere right. But I also don't want to just like pile a ton of product on when I might not need it. I think you can see. I'm also going to take some of that top corner shade that I put on my brow and kind of layer it together to blend out the edges. I think that's very pretty. Okay, let's do a quick blendy thing. Very, very pretty. Very, very mid to light toned, which is good for my skin, not necessarily good on a long term. This is the palette I suggest to people. I probably would not suggest this to people because it's very expensive. For a neutral palette, you could get all sorts of other things for cheaper. So, I am going to have fun with it, but I'm going to treat it like my Natasha Denona and other things in that. Just because I have it and like it does not mean I would ever suggest anybody spend money on it. What I'm willing to do with my money and what I would say, oh my god, yeah, you need this, that's not what those brands are for, in my opinion. Which I'm currently having very conflicted feelings on the Tropic palette being on sale and like trying to talk to people, except as I talk to my friends about it, I start arguing in favor of the palette more and more, which is very dangerous. But it's half price. And I figured out exactly where I had kind of like stuck and dug in. I'm using my Franken bronzer before we get into blush and highlight, because those come out of the fancy pants. The Tropic palette is pretty, but, and I do like the greens and the blues and purple and all that. My main, like, really like, ooh yeah, was that I really wanted those rosy mattes and the glitter shades, which I know are not a lot of people's favorites. Especially because I just got one of her expensive palettes. It was also on sale, so there's that. helping me justify my purchase, but I've looked at the Tropic palette and I've given it consideration every time it's gone on sale because I don't want to pay $130 for it. I know that outright. If I had to pay full price, I would never buy that, which is why I don't own it. And even with it going on sale, it's gone on sale for like $80-90, which is still a lot. And I'm not super sure that it's worth it to me for those shadows and that color story. But at $65? Oh, at $65, I think that's the price it should have been when it came out, which is why, like, that versus a Naked palette, I would pick that. I would pick the Tropic palette. And I think, even though some of those shades are not my favorite and wouldn't be high-use shades, I'm more open to the blues and greens now than I was when it first came out. I've used a lot more of those shades and I'm more comfortable with them. Those rosy mattes are still just so gorgeous to me. I really just I love those mattes. And that glitter texture, I have it in some other Natasha Denona palettes, so like Limoncello and some of those, I really, really want them. If Natasha Denona did singles of things in palettes, I probably would have bought the singles of the rosy mattes and a couple of those glitter shades forever ago and been like, yeah, we're good. Unless that would have tempted me into trying it more. So, this is ridiculous. This is from Chantecaille. It's the Radiant Cheek and Highlight Duo in Coral. I don't know what the names of the individual shades are. This literally arrived today. It's so pretty. I swatched it. I have already a complaint, which is... Oh, maybe you're fine. So, this highlighter pan fell out earlier. I opened it up and it was not in the pan and it had not adhered. But maybe it's re-adhered. I'm not going to mess too much because I was having all these stress moments trying to be like, oh man, am I going to have to find out whether or not I can super glue this back in, because I swatched it and it's fucking pretty. And I have a long and unnecessary thought process on Chantecaille. I'm very interested, I'm very tempted, they look really, really nice, and I'm excited about the smaller pan size. So I'm going to start with the Coral Blush, which is so nice. Oh, I don't know if you can see it, but it is such a pretty flush. These are baked products. I know that because I looked at the back of the pan when it fell out, and it was one of those lattice things where it's definitely a baked product. And if I had thought about that, I can't tell if you can make out the blush on that side, but it's so pretty. We're getting there. I just kind of want to keep putting it on because it's so nice. I've been interested in Chantecaille blushes. They look really nice. I hear great things about them. And I had purposefully not looked into them because I thought that they were limited edition. I thought the ones I was very interested in were limited edition. And then this came out while I was having a lot of quarantine anxiety. And I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna order one. And then I started, justifying it to myself with, well, I have a lot of blush, but these pans are smaller. And once I got on the site and was like looking at the actual items, my brain said, well, if you get one Chantecaille blush in the small palette, or if you, I first off noticed that the ones that I thought were like limited edition and you could only get them in a short time, you can get them. You can get that as many as you want. So there's that. And I really liked the swatches of these. They were really, really pretty. The Chantecaille blushes I wanted in the other pans. They're singles that come in a compact that you can then refill those compacts with refill shades, which is something I like. You can't do that in this formula. Don't ask me why I chose this one over that one. I was having a moment. But the shades that were in there, they were pretty, but they were all things that I currently have. So once I've panned what I have in those shades, I really like the idea of getting, like, a compact, having a shade in there, using up that shade, and then ordering a refill of that shade or different shades so that I can have blush fun, not waste as much packaging, because I do prefer refillable compacts and stuff like that, she says, while talking about a non-refillable compact she bought. I like the idea of that, and I like that Chantecaille blushes are not large. Which sounds stupid. Sounds like, why would you not want it large? You would want to get your money's worth out of it, which most blushes you will. Blushes take forever to use, and if you have less product in them, you can rotate your blushes more evenly and get more fun colors, which I like to play with a lot of colors. So, these huge pans of things seem ridiculous. Just like the huge pans of eyeshadow. That was my justification for Natasha Denona for a while was, oh, well, you get so much product. Guess how many pans I have in Natasha Denona? 0. Because the pans are huge. I have slight dents in a couple of them. And that's after pretty heavy usage. One of them I've used for like 2 one-month one palettes, I think. And I bring it out every time I want to use it. That Lila palette should have more usage by now. Part of my plan to use up more, like have a weekly palette that I use day in, day out for the office once I start panning stuff, is to also pan some of the shades in Natasha Denona Lila. Oh, so I pressed in a silver glitter and a brown shimmer, so I have more incentive to pull this out for looks as opposed to just a matte here and there. That is my logic. And then I also have these, and I think the shades that I added open up some versatility. But like, the Franken shades are top priority for panning. I'm just going to keep going down that path for blush for now. Then we'll pick some more blushes. I like a smaller blush so that I don't feel like I have to, like, a big blush is a great value, but also how many of you who are not actively making a point to have panned blushes? Since we got to the point where, like, everybody has a lot of variety in their collection generally, not back in like the 90s when you had one blush that you used all the way up and then rebought and then used all the way up and rebought. Somebody who didn't wear makeup in the 90s, making an estimate. They just take a long time. Okay, now we get to use the It's swatched so beautifully. I'm so excited for that highlighter. Again, I wish this was something that had refillable pans, but once I have some space in my collection, getting 1 or 2 very pretty high-end blushes. Oh, that's a very nice. This is pretty people makeup. This is soft, elegant, pretty person. You glow as if happy and healthy and not because anybody can tell you're wearing makeup. Because this flush, in my opinion, the blush blended in really nicely, as if my skin had pigment. That is a very flattering almost glassy. Like if I was a person who didn't have to mattify their skin to avoid being oily everywhere, that's what I would want my skin to look like. My skin does look like that when I don't put stuff on it, but that's because it's all over very oily. I do kind of want to put more blush on because I'm a monster. Are we going overboard? Yep, definitely. Is it because I'm really, really into the radiance of this blush and this highlight together? Yeah. Is it doing anything good for the texture of my face? Nope. But that's what you get for liking highlight, but also having large pores. That's just my face. Sorry. Okay, we're closing that. We're moving on. Oh, I like it a lot. I'm glad the pan re-adhered itself. It was very sad. Because I was excited about this. This is something that I've heard a lot about. So I was hoping it was going to be awesome and I could run with my theory of eventually panning through all sorts of blushes and then having a smaller collection of like really nice curated things. And then it came and I opened it up and the pan wasn't in and I was like, as well as I didn't want to give it back. As soon as I swatched it, I'm like, I don't want to send this back. I don't want to not have this. But also, I feel like if I message Shantakai and tell them, hey, the pan fell out, the only way that's a good customer service interaction is they offer to send me another one or replace it, which might involve me sending back what I have, and I don't want to be without it, but I can't just send a casual email being like, hey, your pan fell out, I'm not mad about it, but is it safe to super glue it back in? Anything they say to that interaction other than, we're sending you a replacement and or send it back, we're going to send you a new one, sorry for the whatever, is a bad customer service interaction, even though that's not what I really wanted out of that interaction that I didn't do because I don't have to, because it's not falling out anymore. I guess the glue, it shouldn't be hot enough to melt the glue. It's not that hot here. It's overcast and back and forth. It's warmer than it's been. It's not that type of warm where I'd worry that the package being on my front porch had melted the glue inside the component. But we're just going to let it be. I'm happy right now. This is all just very fancy people makeup. Which I realized as I was putting it together, I'm like, should I just get a bunch of really fancy shit out? Should we do a full face of bougie ass makeup? No, because I don't have replacements for stuff. I don't have a bougie bronzer. I don't have fancy brows. Like, my foundation is Bare Minerals, which is not drugstore, but it's also not fancy. So, instead of pretending it's a bougie face of makeup, we're just testing new things. And I'm not sure if Melt counts as bougie. It's still in that mid to high end tier. Like Anastasia. It's not fancy, but it's not like, ooh, fancy. I would consider my Hourglass lipstick fancier. Which I do. If I'm going somewhere fancy, if I'm going out for a particularly nice anniversary date or job interviews often or weddings, I generally bring that lipstick. But I also think that the look I made, in theory, goes well with the lipstick that I got, and it's a new product because I'd been eyeing that lipstick for a long time and I wanted it. It probably won't stay on my face very long. I have like a patch of angry dry skin on one of my lips that I've been coating in lip balm. But I've had it before, and I often feel like it's caused by... There's some ingredient that is in some lip balms that my lips fucking hate. So I can't tell what to discontinue, because currently my lip is angry. No matter what I put on it, it's not going to be just immediately back to happy-go-lucky. But I know, I'm pretty sure it's one of the lip masks that I have. I have a sample of Laneige, and even though I've used that before, I feel like maybe I've had this and I stop it and then I use it again, then I have this. I don't know. It could also be that I wore lipstick to work and never took like a lip balm break at lunch like I often do. Maybe that, after a couple days, angered me. I have no idea. So, I very well might put this lipstick on, finish the video, and then take it right off. But I do very much want to see this lipstick because I've been going back and forth between, this is 710. I think it's 710 and Mural. I can't really tell online which one is the one I want because shades and swatches are complicated. I don't think this is the color I thought it was, but it is a color I like. Reminds me a lot of Cider from the Black Moon lipsticks, Black Moon Cosmetics liquid lipsticks, which I wanted in a bullet, so yeah. Oh, I love yellow toned. Things I would not have thought I would like a couple years ago. Yellow toned lipsticks. Yeah, that looks a lot like how Cider looked on me. So it's a little bit sheer, but I'm not mad about that because I like how it's mixing with the natural color of my lips. That blush and highlight you can't see because my lighting is crap. Oh, but it's so pretty. The highlight's pretty, the eyes are pretty, the lipstick's pretty. These are some of my ridiculous quarantine purchases. Other ones include a hot air brush, which I used to blow dry my hair today and got no volume out of. But I did get kind of a flip on the end. I shouldn't be surprised. My hair doesn't have volume, like ever. But we'll try again. We will learn more things tomorrow, hopefully, about how to blow dry my hair. I think the eyes are very pretty. Again, that just like soft, subtle, less structured makeup, more just very pretty. It's fancy people makeup. I like this. I don't think you should buy it. This was like 80 bucks. That's very expensive for a small amount of product in a duo, which also doesn't serve the point of being reusable. So, I'm an idiot, but it's so pretty. I now know I like the formula. Well, at least I like this formula. I don't think the other one's the same formula. Yeah. Make better choices than I do, but also I'm really happy I have this. There is something to be said about the fact that Chantecaille donates a portion of their profits towards a lot of different, namely wildlife charities and organizations, but also I could just donate directly to those organizations and not fuel capitalism. So, nobody's perfect. I think it's really pretty. I think if I ever get a big enough dent in my blush collection to justify my fantastic theory of having 1 or 2 compacts and a bunch of, cycling refills as I pan items, Chantecaille is a good option for me. It's still really fucking expensive. I'm getting to a dangerous point in that I have more bougie high-end shit than I have like high-end shit, indie shit, and I'm panning a bunch of mainstream shit. So, I'm dealing with that and figuring out how to feel about myself and my habits. And some of them are reasonable habits, like Shiseido as my primer is fancy and high-end, but it's also the one that works the fucking best. So I'll pay more for that. I'm not like tempted to try a bunch of different super fancy primers. I just gotta pan some stuff. But here's my fancy new makeup. Oh god, why did I do this? Fancy new makeup that I like so far. I really like this packaging too. Is very, very cool. It helps me feel more excited about what is generally a warm, neutral eyeshadow look. Turned out really nice though. I like it. I'm gonna go before you take this as any type of sign that you should buy fancy makeup. It's too expensive. Make smarter choices than I do. I will see you next time. I'm going to attempt to make videos on the weekends since I can't make them during the week since I'm back every day, but we will see how that all goes. Hopefully the reintegration of people into society and lowering restrictions doesn't have a horrible backfire that my anxiety is telling me might happen, so I'll see you guys later. Bye.